Nah. La chanson courte. Il est pas long. Whoa. Thank you. Thank you. That was my short. My song is short. Anyway. Okay, it's been a heck of a day, so I'm not. I'm just like getting myself trying to get myself up to speed. It's dead. What's dead? What is dead? Oh, I mean, I should be streaming. It's streaming as far as I can tell. Well, it says I'm streaming here, so why don't you like do an F5 on your browser or something? Oh, right. Heavens to Betsy. What a day, what a day. I had to restart the thing. Yeah. I mean, whoa. See, because I was doing a song earlier and I even gave you the lyrics for it. Sure, I mean, I could fire up a browser and then just stream myself streaming myself. I figured I knew it was working on my end. So I had you check things on your end because I was pretty sure it was not broken on mine. So, and so we got a little bit of troubleshooting on the stream, which is kind of funny. I mean, all those viewers viewing all of that. Shall we? I don't feel like being taken to task right now over this. I've had a hard day of looking at. Yeah. Well, I don't think it would make a whole lot of difference on. Herp, herp. Yeah, I guess it'd be kind of funny. I'm just here going blah blah blah. And then he did this and that and the other thing, and there were boners involved. And meanwhile, people are just hearing pigeons outside, or jackanapes with their anti-lags. Welcome to the Pigeon and Anti-Lag Show, featuring pigeons and anti-lag. Did you know that most business majors who own performance cars are both sadists and psychopaths? Gosh. Is it because they own cars, or is it because they're business majors? Who knows? All that flummery and jackanapery aside, let's go do the thing that we're here to do. I'd like to tell you about Book 3, Chapter 7, how Panurge had a flea in his ear, and forbore to wear any longer his magnificent codpiece. That sounds like he's having a change of heart. He's becoming woke or something. Panurge, the day after, caused pierce his right ear after the Jewish fashion, and thereto caused fire alarms to be sounded as the trucks did drive by. What a day this is. Hello people, please like and subscribe, and so that we can get enough money to move somewhere where there aren't fire trucks every day. You missed a bunch of troubleshooting, and now you're missing the effing fire truck, so what a day this has been so far. Can I tell you about all the terrible code I've been looking at? I could probably just rant and rave all day. I could probably rant and rave for longer than it took me to figure out how to get their code to work poorly in the first place. But hello, Montrose. It's nice to see you. Right then. Let's try this again. Panurge, the day after, caused pierce his right ear after the Jewish fashion, and thereto clasped a little gold ring, of a ferny-like kind of workmanship, in the bezel or collet whereof was set and enchased a flea. And, to the end you may be rid of all doubts, you are to know that the flea was black. Because, I would not abide a non-black flea, clearly. Oh, what a brave thing it is, in every case and circumstance of the matter, to be thoroughly well informed. The sum of the expense hereof being cast up, brought in, and laid down upon his council board carpet, was found to amount to no more quarterly than the charge of the nuptials of a Hyrcanian tigress, even, as you would say, 600,000 maravidi, whichever that is. That's probably a bruzouf. At these vast costs and excessive disbursements, as soon as he perceived himself to be out of debt, he fretted much, and afterwards, as tyrants and lawyers used to do, he nourished and fed her with the sweat and blood of his subjects and clients. Well, hopefully this will keep you awake long enough that you can have a nice snug sleep later. He then took 4 French ells of a coarse brown russet cloth, and therein appareling himself, as with a long plain-seamed and single-stitched gown, left off the wearing of his breeches, and tied a pair of spectacles to his cap. In this equipage did he present himself before Pantagruel, to whom this disguise appeared the more strange, that he did not, as before, see that goodly, fair, and stately codpiece, which was the sole anchor of hope wherein he was wanted to rely, and last refuge he had midst all the waves and boisterous billows which a stormy cloud and a cross fortune would raise up against him. I felt like that sentence was stolen from Irene Iddesleigh. Honest Pantagruel, not understanding the mystery, asked him, by way of interrogatory, what he did intend to personate in that new-fangled prosopopeia. I have, answered Panurge, a flea in mine ear, and have a mind to marry. In a good time, quoth Pantagruel, you have told me joyful tidings. Yet would not I hold a red-hot iron in my hand for all the gladness of them. But it is not the fashion of lovers to be accoutred in such dangling vestments, so as to have their shirts flagging down over their knees, without breeches, and without a long robe of dark brown mingled hue, which is a color never used in Talarian garments amongst any person of honor, quality, or virtue. If some heretical persons and schismatical sectaries, have at any time formerly been so arrayed and clothed, though I may have imputed such a kind of dress to cozenage, cheat, imposture, and an affectation of tyranny upon credulous minds of the rude multitude, I will nevertheless not blame them for it, nor in that point judge rashly nor sinistrously of them. Everyone overflowingly aboundeth in his own sense and fancy, yea, in things of a foreign consideration, altogether extrinsical and indifferent, which in and of themselves are neither commendable nor bad, because they proceed not from the interior of the thoughts and heart, which is the shop of all good and evil, of goodness if it be upright, and that its affections be regulated by the pure and clean spirit of righteousness. And on the other side of weakness, man, I haven't even had that much wine yet. and on the other side, of wickedness, of its inclinations, straying beyond the bounds of equity, to be corrupted and depraved by the malice and suggestions of the devil. It is only the novelty and newfangledness thereof which I dislike, together with the contempt of common custom and fashion which is in use. I couldn't tell you. I guess I thought a flea in one's ear is an idiom for something, but I don't know what. But also agree with you. I like that Mon Oncle Serge thing I played for you yesterday. It was like, here he's doing his death metal thing. I could believe those guys were the schismatical secretaries. La chanson longue, elle n'est pas courte. Whoa! That's going to amuse me for hours on end, but I'll try not to inflict it on you too many more times. The color, answered Panurge, is convenient, for it is conformed to that of my council board carpet. Therefore will I henceforth hold me with it, and more narrowly and circumspectly than ever hitherto I have done look to my affairs and business. Seeing I am once out of debt, you never yet saw man more unpleasing than I will be, if God help me not. Lo, here be my spectacles. To see me afar off, you would readily say that it were Friar John Burgess. I believe certainly that in the next ensuing year I shall once more preach the crusade. Bounds, Buckram, do you see this russet? Doubt not, but there lurketh under it some hid property and occult virtue known to very few in the world. I did not take it on before this morning, and nevertheless am already in a rage of lust, mad after a wife, and vehemently hot upon untying the codpiece point. I itch, I tingle, I wriggle, really, and long exceedingly to be married, that without the danger of cudgel blows I may labor my female copsemate with the hard push of a bull-horned devil. Oh, the provident and thrifty husband that I then will be! After my death, with all honor and respect due to my frugality, will they burn the sacred bulk of my body, of purpose to preserve the ashes thereof, in memory of the choicest pattern that ever was of a perfectly wary and complete householder. Cop's body, this is not the carpet whereon my treasure shall be allowed to play false in its accounts with me, by sending out an X for a V or an L for an S. In that case, should I make a hail of fisticuffs to fly in his face? Look upon me, sir, both before and behind. It is made after the manner of a toga, which was the ancient fashion of the Romans in time of peace. I took the mode, shape, and form thereof in Trajan's column at Rome, as also in the triumphant arch of Septimus Severus. I am tired of the wars, weary of wearing buff coats, cassocks, and hoquetons. My shoulders are pitifully worn and bruised with the carrying of harness. Let armor seize, let the long robe bear sway. At least it must be so for the whole space of the succeeding year, if I be married as yesterday, by the Mosaic law you evidenced. In what concerneth the breeches, my great aunt Lawrence did long ago tell me that the breeches were only ordained for the use of the codpiece, and to no other end, which I, upon a no less forcible consequence, give credit to every wit, as well as to the saying of the fine fellow Galen, who in his 9th book of the use and employment of our members allegeth that the head was made for the eyes. For nature might have placed our heads in our knees or elbows, but having beforehand determined that the eyes should serve to discover things from afar, she, for the better enabling them to execute their designed office, fixed them in the head, as on the top of a long pole, in the most eminent part of all the body. No otherwise than we see the fairs or high towers erected in the mouths of havens, that navigators may the further off perceive with ease the lights of the nightly fires and lanterns, and because I would gladly, for some short while, a year at least, take a little rest and breathing time from the toilsome labor of the military profession, that is to say, be married, I have desisted from wearing any more a codpiece, and consequently have laid aside my breeches. For the codpiece is the principal and most especial piece of armor that a warrior doth carry. And therefore do I maintain, even to the fire, exclusively, understand you me, that no Turks can properly be said to be armed men, in regard that codpieces I, by their law, forbidden to be worn. I mean, hornypreneur seems kind of redundant. That's like, I don't know. There's a lot of uncharitable comparisons I can make. Book 3, Chapter 8. Why the codpiece is held to be the chief piece of armor amongst warriors. Well, I can't think of any guy that wants to get, like, stabbed in the dick, so... Kinda get it? I guess we'll find out. Will you maintain, quoth Pantagruel, that the codpiece is the chief piece of a military harness? It is a new kind of doctrine, very paradoxical, for we say, at spurs begins the arming of a man. Sir, I maintain it, answered Panurge, and not wrongfully do I maintain it. Behold how nature, having a fervent desire after its production of plants, trees, shrubs, herbs, sponges, and plant animals, to eternize and continue them unto all succession of ages, in their several kinds or sorts, although the individuals perish, unruinable and in an everlasting being, hath most curiously armed and fenced their buds, sprouts, shoots, and seeds, wherein the above-mentioned perpetuity consisteth, by strengthening, covering, guarding, and fortifying them with an admirable industry, with husks, cases, scurfs and swads, hulls, cods, stones, films, cartels, shells, ears, rinds, barks, skins, ridges, and prickles. Which serve them instead of strong, fair, and natural codpieces, as is manifestly apparent in peas, beans, fasils, pomegranates, peaches, cottons, gourds, pumpkins. I don't know what that is, but I'm interested. Melons, corns, actually corn in the singular, lemons, almonds, walnuts, filberts, and chestnuts, as likewise in all plants, slips, or sets whatsoever, wherein it is plainly and evidently seen that the sperm and semence is more closely veiled, overshadowed, corroborated, and thoroughly harnessed than any other part, portion, or parcel of the whole. I desire a wife, therefore I shall run around commando in a moo-moo. I mean, clearly the big honking codpiece wasn't doing it for him. Nature, nevertheless, did not after that manner provide for the sempiternizing of the human race, but on the contrary, created man naked, tender, and frail, without either offensive or defensive arms, and that in the estate of innocence in the first age of all, which was the golden season, not as a plant, but living creature, born for peace, not war, and brought forth into the world with an unquestionable right entitled to the plenary fruition and enjoyment of all fruits and vegetables, as also to a certain calm and gentle rule and dominion over all kinds of beasts, fowls, fishes, reptiles, and insects. Yet afterwards, it happening in the time of the Iron Age, under the reign of Jupiter, when, to the multiplication of mischievous actions, wickedness, and malice, began to take root and footing within the then perverted hearts of men, that the earth began to spring forth nettles, thistles, thorns, briars, and other such stubborn and rebellious vegetables to the nature of man. Nor scarce was there any animal which by a fatal disposition did not then revolt from him, and tacitly conspire and covenant with one another to serve him no longer, nor, in case of their ability to resist, to do him any manner of obedience, but rather, to the uttermost of their power, to annoy him with all the hurt and harm they could. And thus did God invent a cat. The man, then, that he might maintain his primitive right and prerogative, and continue his sway and dominion over all, both vegetable and sensitive creatures, and knowing of a truth that could not be well accommodated as he ought, without the servitude and subjection of several animals, bethought himself that of necessity he must needs put on arms, and make provision of harness against wars and violence. By the holy Saint Babingoose, cried out Pantagruel. "You are become, since the last reign, a great lifre-lofre, philosopher, I should say." "Take notice, sir," quoth Panurge, when Dame Nature had prompted him to his own arming, what part of the body it was where, by her inspiration, he clapped on the first harness. "It was, forsooth, by the double pluck of my little dog the Ballock, and good Signor Don Priapus Stabo Stando." That is a good name, I don't care what you think. "Which done, he was content, and sought no more. This is certified by the testimony of the great Hebrew captain and philosopher Moses, who affirmeth that he fenced that member with a brave and gallant codpiece, most exquisitely framed, and by right curious devices of a notably pregnant invention, made up and composed of fig tree leaves, which by reason of their solid stiffness, incisory notches, curled frizzling, sleeked smoothness, large ampleness, together with their colour, smell, virtue, and faculty, were exceeding proper and fit for the covering and arming of the satchels of generation. The hideous big Lorraine cullions being from thence only accepted, which, swaggering down to the lowermost bottom of the breeches, cannot abide, for being quite out of all order and method, the stately fashion of the high and lofty codpiece, as is manifest by the noble Valentine Viardière, whom I found at Nancy on the 1st day of May, the more flauntingly to gallantrize it afterwards, rubbing his ballocks spread out upon a table after the manner of a Spanish cloak. Wherefore it is that none should henceforth say who would not speak improperly, when any country bumpkin hieth to the wars. Have a care, my royster, of the wine-pot, that is the skull, but have a care, my royster, of the milk-pot, that is the testicles. By the whole rabble of the horned fiends of hell, the head being cut off, that a single person only thereby dieth. But if the ballocks be marred, the whole race of humankind would forthwith perish and be lost for ever. I still like Priapus Stabo Stando, and I don't care what anybody thinks. Although I think the next username I used for something online was from a Mononc Serge cheese brand, which I'm just going to type out. There. That's such a good cheese name. This was the motive which incited the goodly writer Galen, lib. 1 de Sparmate, to aver with boldness that it were better, that is to say, a less evil, to have no heart at all, than to be quite destitute of genitories. For there is laid up, conserved, and put in store, as in a successive repository and sacred warehouse, the semence and original source of the whole offspring of mankind. Therefore would I be apt to believe, for less than 100 francs, that those who are the very same stones by means whereof Deucalion and Pyrrha restored the human race, in peopling with men and women the world, which a little before that had been drowned in the overflowing waves of a poetical deluge. Yeah, it's one anthem of many. Tabarnouche. This stirred up the valiant Justinian, Lulford to collocate his summum bonum. What? To collocate his summum bonum in Bragubus et Braguetis. For this and other causes, the Lord Humphrey de Merville, following of his king to a certain warlike expedition, whilst he was entying upon his own person a new suit of armour, for of his old rusty harness he could make no more use, by reason that some few years since the skin of his belly was a great way removed from his kidneys, his lady thereupon, in the profound musing of a contemplative spirit, very maturely considering that he had but small care of the staff of love and packet of marriage, seeing he did no otherwise arm that part of the body than with links of mail, advised him to shield, fence, and gabionated with a big tilting helmet which she had lying in her closet, to her otherwise utterly unprofitable. Whatever. On this lady were penned these subsequent verses. which are extant in the third book of that shitbrana of paltry wenches. When Yolande saw her spouse equipped for fight, and save the codpiece all in armor dight. My dear, she cried, why, pray, of all the rest, is that exposed? You know I love the best. Was she to blame for an ill-managed fear, or rather pious, conscionable gear? Wise lady she, in hurly-burly fight, can any tell where random blows may light? Leave off then, sir, from being astonished, and wonder no more at this new manner of decking and trimming up of myself, as you now see me. Excuse me. Shit, Branna. Book 3, Chapter 9. How Panurge asketh counsel of Pantagruel whether he should marry, yea or no. Surprised it was a yea or nay. But to this Pantagruel replying nothing, Panurge prosecuted the discourse as he had already broached, and therewithal fetching, as from the bottom of his heart, a very deep sigh, said, My lord and master, you have heard the design I am upon, which is to marry, if by some disastrous mischance all the holes in the world be not shut up, stopped, closed, and bushed. I humbly beseech you, for the affection which of a long time you have borne me, to give me your best advice therein. Then answered Pantagruel, seeing you have so decreed, taken deliberation thereon, and that the matter is fully determined, what need is there of any further talk thereof, but forthwith to put it into execution which you have resolved? Yea, but, quoth Panurge, I would be loth to act anything therein without your counsel had hereto. It is my judgment also, quoth Pantagruel, and I advise you to it. Nevertheless, quoth Panurge, if I understood aright, that it were much better for me to remain a bachelor as I am, than to run headlong upon a new harebrained undertakings of conjugal adventure, I would rather choose not to marry. Quoth Pantagruel, then do not marry. Yea, but, quoth Panurge, would you have me so solitarily drive out the whole course of my life without the comfort of a matrimonial consort? You know it is written. You know, what did that? Oh, I'm losing myself here. Okay, you know it is written, Ve soli, and not a single person is never seen to reap the joy and solace that is found with married folk. Let's just sit this a little bit. I keep losing myself. This is kind of funny. Let me give me a second here. There we go. Okay, thank you. Then marry in the name of God, quoth Pantagruel. But if, quoth Panurge, my wife should make me a cuckold, as it is not unknown unto you, how this hath been a very plentiful year in the production of that kind of cattle, I would fly out and grow impatient beyond all measure and mean. I love cuckolds with my heart, for they seem unto me to be of a right honest conversation, and I truly do very willingly frequent their company. But should I die for it, I would not be one of their number. That is a point for me of a too sore prickling point. Then do not marry, quoth Pantagruel, for without all controversy this sentence of Seneca is infallibly true. What thou to others shalt have done, others will do to the like. Others will do the like to thee. God, this guy. Should I marry? Yes. But what if it goes bad? Then don't. But what if it goes good? Then do. But just fucking make up your mind, man. How do I keep losing my space? Okay. Where's that thing about Seneca? I keep losing my place. This is really annoying. Okay. There we go. Do you, quoth Panurge, aver that without all exception? Yes, truly, quoth Pantagruel, without all exception. Ho, ho, says Panurge, by the wrath of a little devil, his meaning is, either in this world, or in the other which is to come. Yet, seeing I can no more want a wife than a blind man his staff, for the funnel must be in agitation, without which manner of occupation I cannot live. were it not a great deal better for me to apply and associate myself to some one honest, lovely, and virtuous woman, than as I do, by a new change of females every day, run a hazard of being bastinadoed, or, which is worse, of the great pox, if not of both together. That's exactly what I was thinking. For never, be it spoken by their husbands, leave and favour, had I enjoyment yet of an honest woman. Marry then, in God's name, quoth Pantagruel. But if, quoth Panurge, it were the will of God, and that my destiny did unluckily lead me to marry an honest woman who should beat me, I would be stored with more than 2/3 part of the patience of Job, if I were not stark mad by it, and quite distracted with such rugged dealings. For it hath been told me that those exceeding honest women have ordinarily very wicked headpieces. Therefore is it that their family lacketh not for good vinegar. Yet in that case should it go worse with me, if I did not then in such sort bang her back and breast, so thumpingly bethwack her gillets, to wit, her arms, legs, head, lights, liver, and milt, with her other entrails, and mangle, jag, and slash her coats so after the cross billet fashion, that the greatest devil of hell should wait at the gate for the reception of her damnal soul. I could make a shift for this year to waive such molestation and disquiet, and be content to lay aside that trouble, and not be engaged in it. Do not marry, then, answered Pantagruel. Yeah, but, quoth Panurge, considering the condition where I now am, out of debt and unmarried, mark what I say, free from all debt, in an ill hour, for, were I deeply on the score, my creditors would be too careful of my paternity, but being quit, and not married, nobody will be so regardful of me, or carry towards me a love like that which is said to be in a conjugal affection. And if by some mishap I should fall sick, I would be looked to very waywardly. The wise man saith, where there is no woman, I mean the mother of a family and wife in the union of a lawful wedlock, the crazy and diseased are in danger of being ill-used and of having much brabbling and strife about them, as by clear experience hath been made apparent in the persons of popes, legates, cardinals, bishops, abbots, priors, priests, and monks. But there, assure yourself, you shall not find me. Marry, then, in the name of God, answered Pantagruel. I shall hold him for you, and then you can punch him twice. But if, quoth Panurge, being ill at ease, and possibly through that distemper made unable to discharge the matrimonial duty that is incumbent to an active husband, my wife, impatient of that drooping sickness, and faint fits of a pining languishment, should abandon and prostitute herself to the embraces of another man, and not only then not help and assist me in my extremity and need, but withal flout at and make sport that my grievous distress and calamity, or peradventure, which is worse, embezzle my goods and steal from me, as I have seen it oftentimes befall unto the lot of many other men, were it enough to undo me utterly, to fill brimful the cup of my misfortune, and make me play the mad pate reeks of Bedlam. Do not marry, then, quoth Pantagruel. What more do you want from me, man? Yea, but, said Panurge, I shall never by any other means come to have lawful sons and daughters, in whom I may harbour some hope of perpetuating my name and arms, and to whom also I may leave and bequeath my inheritances and purchased goods, of which latter sort you need not doubt but that in some one or another of these mornings I will make a fair and goodly show, so that I may cheer up and make merry when otherwise I should be plunged into a peevish sullen mood of pensive sullenness, as I do perceive daily by the gentle and loving carriage of your kind and gracious father towards you, as all honest folks used to do at their own homes and private dwelling houses. For being free from debt, and yet not married, if casually I should fret and be angry, although the cause of my grief and displeasure were never so just, I am afraid, instead of consolation, that I should meet with nothing else but scoffs, frumps, jibes, and mocks at my disastrous fortune. Marry, then, in the name of God, quoth Pantagruel. Wow. Yeah. Decisions are hard to make, man. Come on. Chapter 3, Book 10. How Pantagruel representeth unto Panurge the difficulty of giving advice in the matter of marriage, and to that purpose mentioneth somewhat of the Homeric and Virgilian lotteries. Your counsel, quoth Panurge, under your correction in favour, seemeth unto me not unlike the song of Gammer Yea by Nay. It is full of sarcasms, mockeries, bitter taunts, nipping bobs, derisive quips, biting jerks, and contradictory iterations, the one part destroying the other. I know not, quoth Pantagruel, which of all my answers to lay hold on, for your proposals are so full of ifs and buts that I can grant nothing on them, nor pitch upon any solid or positive determination satisfactory to what is demanded by them. Are not you assured within yourself of what you have a mind to? The chief and main point of the whole matter lieth there. All the rest is merely casual, and totally dependeth upon the fatal disposition of the heavens. We see some so happy in the fortune of this nuptial encounter, that their family shineth, as it were, with the radiant effulgency of an idea, model, or representation of the joys of paradise, and perceive others again to be so unluckily matched in the conjugal yoke, that those very basest of devils which tempt the hermits that inhabit the desert of Thebes and Montserrat are not more miserable than they. It is therefore expedient, seeing you are resolved for once to take a trial of the state of marriage, that with shut eyes, bowing your head and kissing the ground, you put the business to a venture, and give it a fair hazard, in recommending the success of the residue to the disposure of Almighty God. It lieth not in my power to give you any other manner of assurance, or otherwise to certify you of what shall ensue on this your undertaking. Nevertheless, if it please you, this you may do. Bring hither Virgil's poems, that after having opened the book, and with our fingers severed the leaves thereof 3 several times, we may, according to the number agreed upon betwixt ourselves, explore the future hap of your intended marriage. Oh, they're going to do bibliomancy. That's cool. For frequently, by a Homeric lottery, many have hit upon their destinies, as is testified in the person of Socrates, who, whilst he was in prison, hearing the recitation of this verse of Homer, said of Achilles in the 9th of the Iliads, "We, the 3rd day, to fertile Phthia came. Thereby foresaw that on the... I'm not reading the Greek, so... Thereby foresaw that on the 3rd subsequent day he was to die." Yeah, I remember the intro to this chapter, and I will just wait. Of the truth whereof he assured Aeschines, as Plato in Criton, Cicero in Primo, De Divinatione, Diogenes Laertius, and others have to the full recorded in their work. The like is also witnessed by Opilius Macrinus, to whom, being desirous to know if he should be the Roman emperor, befell, by chance of lot, this sentence in the 8th of the Iliads: "Dotard, new warriors urge thee to be gone. Thy life decays, and old age weighs thee down." In fact, he, being then somewhat ancient, had hardly enjoyed the sovereignty of the empire for the space of 14 months, when by Heliogabalus, then both young and strong, he was dispossessed thereof, thrust out of all, and killed. Brutus doth also bear witness of another experiment of this nature, who willing, through the exploratory way by lot, to learn what the event and issue should be of the Pharsalian battle wherein he perished, he casually encountered on this verse, said of Patroclus in the 16th of the Iliads: "Fate and Latona's son have shot me dead." And accordingly Apollo was on the fieldward in that dreadful day of that fight. Diverse notable things of old have likewise been foretold and known by casting of Virgilian lots. Yea, in the matters of no less importance than the obtaining of the Roman Empire, as it happened to Alexander Severus, who, trying his fortune at the said kind of lottery, did hit upon this verse written in the 6th of the Aeneads: Know, Roman, that thy business is to reign. He, within a very few years thereafter, was effectually and in good earnest created and installed Roman emperor. A semblable story thereto is related of Adrian, who, being hugely perplexed within himself out of a longing humour to know in what account he was with the Emperor Trajan, and how large the measure of that affection which he did bear unto him, had recourse, after the manner above specified, to the Moronian lottery, which by haphazard tendered him these lines out of the 6th of the Aeneids. But who is he, conspicuous from afar, with olive bows that doth his offering bear? I guess bar. By the white hair and beard I know him plain, the Roman king. Shortly thereafter he was adopted by Trajan, and succeeded him in the empire. Moreover, to the lot of the praiseworthy Emperor Claudius befell this line of Virgil, written in the 6th of his Aeneids. Whilst the 3rd summer saw him reign, a king in Latium. And in effect he did not reign above 2 years. To the said Claudian also, inquiring concerning his brother Quintilius, whom he proposed as a colleague with himself in the empire, happened the response following in the 6th of the Aeneids. Whom fate, let us see, and would no longer suffer him to be. And it so fell out, for he was killed on the 17th day, after he had attained unto the management of the imperial charge. The very same lot, also, with the like misluck, did betide to the Emperor Gordian the Younger. To Claudius Albinus, being very solicitous to understand somewhat of his future adventures, did occur this saying, which is written in the 6th of the Aeneids. The Romans, boiling with tumultuous rage, this warrior shall the dangerous storm assuage. With victories he the Carthaginian mauls, and with strong hand shall crush the rebel Gauls. Likewise, when the Emperor D. Claudius, Aurelian's predecessor, did with great eagerness research after the fate to come of his posterity, his hap was to alight on this verse in the 1st of the Aeneids. No bounds are to be set, no limits here, which was fulfilled by the goodly genealogical row of his race. Or maybe it's a row? Well, anyway. When Mr. Peter Amy did and likewise explore and make trial if he should escape the ambush of the hobgoblins, who lay in wait all to bemaul him. I like that. All to bemaul is all hyphenated. He fell upon this verse in the 3rd of the Aeneids. Oh, flee the bloody land, the wicked shore! Which counsel he obeying, safe and sound, forthwith avoided all these ambuscades. Were it not to shun prolixity, I could enumerate 1,000 such like adventures, which, conform to the dictate and verdict of the verse, have by that manner of lot-casting encounter befallen to the curious researchers of them. Do not you nevertheless imagine, lest you should be deluded, that I would, upon this kind of fortune-flinging proof, infer an uncontrollable and not to be gainsaid infallibility of truth. Excuse me. Book 3, Chapter 11. How Pantagruel showeth the trial of one's fortune by the throwing of dice to be unlawful. It would be sooner done, quoth Panurge, and more expeditely, if we should try the matter at the dice if we should try the matter at the chance of 3 fair dice. Quoth Pantagruel, that sort of lottery is deceitful, abusive, illicitous, and exceedingly scandalous. Never trust in it. The accursed book of the recreation of dice was a great while ago excogitated in Achaia near Bur by that ancient enemy of mankind, the infernal calumniator, who, before the statue or massive image of the Buraic Hercules, did of old, and doth in several places of the world as yet, make many simple souls to err and fall into his snares. You know how my father Gargantua hath forbidden it over all his kingdoms and dominions, how he hath caused burn the moulds and draughts thereof, and altogether suppressed, abolished, driven forth, and cast it out of the land, as a most dangerous plague and infection to any well-polished state or commonwealth. What I have told you of dice, I say the same of the play at Cockall. It is a lottery of like guile and deceitfulness, and therefore do not, for convincing of me, allege in opposition to this my opinion, or bring in the example of the fortunate cast of Tiberius within the fountain of Aponis at the oracle of Geryon. These are the baited hooks by which the devil attracts and draweth unto him the foolish souls of silly people into eternal perdition. He's probably not that dramatic, but I am. Nevertheless, to satisfy your humor in some measure, I am content you throw 3 dice upon this table, that, according to the number of the blots which shall happen to be cast up, we may hit upon a verse of that page, which in the setting open of the book you shall have pitched upon. So it's bibliodicomancy. Have you any dice in your pocket? A whole bag full, answered Panurge. That is provision against the devil, as is expounded by Merlin Cocceius, Libtu de Petra Diablorum. The devil would be sure to take me napping, and very much at unawares, if he should find me without dice. With this, the 3 dice being taken out, produced, and thrown, they fell so pat upon the lower bounds that the cast was 5, 6, and 5. These are, quoth Panurge, 16 in all. Let us take the 16th line of the page. The number pleaseth me very well. I hope we shall have a prosperous and happy chance. May I be thrown amidst all the devils of hell, even as a great bull cast athwart at a set of 9 pins, or a cannonball shot amongst a battalion of foot, in case so many times I do not bolt my future wife the first night of our marriage. Of that, forsooth, I make no doubt at all, quoth Pantagruel. You needed not to have rapped forth such a horrid imprecation, the sooner to procure credit for the performance of so small a business, seeing possibly the first bout will be amiss, and that you know is usually at tennis called 15. At the next justling turn you may readily amend that fault, and so complete a reckoning of 16. Is it so, quoth Panurge, that you understand the matter? And must my words be thus interpreted? Nay, believe me, never yet was any solecism committed by that valiant champion, who often hath for me in Bellydale stood sentry at the hypogastrian cranny. Wow. Did you ever hitherto find me in the confraternity of the faulty? Never, I trow, never, nor ever shall, for ever and a day. I do the feat like a goodly friar or father confessor, without default, and therein am I willing to be judged by the players. He had no sooner spoke these words than the works of Virgil were brought in. But before the book was laid open, Panurge said to Pantagruel, My heart, like the furch of a hart in a rut, doth beat within my breast. Be pleased to feel and grope my pulse a little on this artery of my left arm. At its frequent rise and fall, you would say that they swinge and belabor me after the manner of a probationer, posed and put to a peremptory trial in the examination of his sufficiency for the discharge of the learned duty of a graduate in some eminent degree in the college of the Sorbonists. But would you not hold it expedient, before we proceed any further, that we should invocate Hercules and the Tanetian goddesses, who in the chamber of lots are said to rule, sit in judgment, and bear a presidential sway? Bil, 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 bil. Neither him nor them, answered Pantagruel. Only open up the leaves of the book with your fingers, and set your nails a work. Chapter 12. How Pantagruel doth explore by the Virgilian lottery what fortune Panurge shall have in his marriage. Then, at the opening of the book, in the 16th row of the lines of the disclosed page, did Panurge encounter upon this following verse. The god him from his table banished, nor would the goddess have him in her bed. This response, quoth Pantagruel, maketh not very much for your benefit or advantage, for it plainly signifies and denoteth that your wife shall be a strumpet, and yourself, by consequence, a cuckold. The goddess, whom you shall not find propitious nor favorable unto you, is Minerva, a most redoubtable and dreadful virgin, a powerful and fulminating goddess, an enemy to cuckolds and effeminate youngsters, to cuckold makers and adulterers. The god is Jupiter, a terrible and thunder-striking god from heaven, and withal it is to be remarked that, conform to the doctrine of the ancient Etrurians, the Menubes, for they so did call the darting hurls or slinging casts of the Vulcanian thunderbolts, did only appertain to her and to Jupiter, her father capital. This was verified in the conflagration of the ships of Ajax Oileus. Nor doth this fulminating power belong to any other of the Olympic gods. Men, therefore, stand not in such fear of them. Moreover, I will tell you, and you may take it as extracted out of the profoundest mysteries of mythology, that, when the giants had enterprised the waging of a war against the power of the celestial orbs, the gods at first did laugh at these attempts, and scorned such despicable enemies, who were, in their conceit, not strong enough to cope in feats of warfare with their pages. But when they saw by the gigantine labor the high hill Pelion set on lofty Ossa, and that the Mount Olympus was made shake to be erected on the top of both, then was it that Jupiter held a parliament, or general convention, wherein it was unanimously resolved and condescended to by all the gods, that they should worthily and valiantly stand to their defense. And because they had often seen battles lost by the cumbersome lets and disturbing encumbrances of women confusedly huddled in amongst armies, it was at that time decreed and enacted that they should expel and drive out of heaven into Egypt and the confines of Nile the whole crew of goddesses, disguised in the shapes of weasels, polecats, bats, shrew mice, ferrets, fulmarts, and other such like odd transformations. Only Minerva was reserved to participate with Jupiter in the horrific culminating power, as being the goddess both of war and learning, of arts and arms, of counsel and despatch, a goddess armed from her birth, a goddess dreaded in heaven, in the air, by the sea and land. By the belly of Saint Buff, quoth Panurge, should I be Vulcan, whom the poet blasons? Nay, I am neither a cripple, coiner of false money, nor smith, as he was. My wife possibly will be as comely and handsome as ever was his Venus, but not a hoorer like her, nor I a cuckold like him. The crooked-legged slovenly slave made himself to be declared a cuckold by a definite sentence and judgment in the open view of the gods. For this cause ought you to interpret the aforementioned verse quite contrary to what you have said. This lot importeth that my wife will be honest, virtuous, chaste, loyal, and faithful, not armed, surly, wayward, cross, giddy, humorous, heady, harebrained, or extracted out of the brains, as was the goddess Pallas. Nor shall this fair, jolly Jupiter be my co-rival. He shall never dip his bread into my broth, though we should sit together at one table. Yeah, ain't no man like a funny woman. That's quite factually incorrect, actually. Consider his exploits and gallant actions. He was the manifest ruffian, wencher, whoremonger, and most infamous cuckold maker that ever breathed. He did always lecher it like a Moor, and no wonder, for he was fostered by a sow in the Isle of Candia, if Agathocles the Babylonian be not a liar, and more ramishly lascivious than a buck. Whence it whence it is that he is said by others to have been suckled and fed with the milk of an Amalthean goat. By the virtue of Acheron, he justled, bullied, and lost-darinated in one day the third part of the world, beasts and people, floods and mountains. That was Europa. For this grand subigatory achievement, the Ammonians caused draw, delineate, and paint him in the figure and shape of a ram ramming, and horned ram. But I know well enough how to shield and preserve myself from that horned champion. He will not, trust me, have to deal in my person with a sottish, dunsical amphitryon, nor with a silly, witless Argus, for all his 100 spectacles, nor yet with the cowardly meacock Acrisius, the simple goose-capped Lycus of Thebes, the doting blockhead Agenor, the phlegmatic pea-goose Aesop, the rough-footed Lycaon, the luskish, misshapen Coritus of Tuscany, nor with the large-backed and strong-reined Atlas. Excuse me. Let him alter, change, transform, and metamorph himself into 100 various shapes and figures, into a swan, a bull, a satyr, a shower of gold, or into a cuckoo, as he did when he unmaidened his sister Juno, into an eagle, ram, or dove, as when he was enamored of the virgin Thea, who then dwelt in the Aegean territory, into fire, a serpent, yea, even into a flea, into Epicurean and democratical atoms, or more magistronostralically, I think I said that one correctly, into the sly intentions of the mind, which in the schools are called second notions. I'll catch him in the nick and take him napping. And would you know what I would do unto him? Even that which to his father Coelium Saturn did. Seneca foretold it of me, and Lactantius hath confirmed it, what the goddess Rhea did to Aethus. I would make him 2 stone lighter, rid him of his Cyprian symbols, and cut so close and so neatly by the breach, that there shall not remain thereof so much as one. So cleanly would I shave him, and disable him forever from being pope, for testiculos non habet. Hold there, said Pantagruel. Ho, soft and fair, my lad. Enough of that. Cast up, turn over the leaves, and try your fortune for the second time. Then did he fall upon this ensuing verse. I think he also just said he was going to, emasculate Jupiter. Anyway, the verse. His joints and members quake, he becomes pale, and sudden fear doth his cold blood congeal. Congeal, because it's got to rhyme. It's got to rhyme so hard. This importeth, quoth Pantagruel, that she will soundly bang your back and belly. I think that's good. Clean and quite contrary, answered Panurge. It is of me that he procrastinates, in saying that I will beat her like a tiger if she vex me. Sir Martin Wagstaff will perform that office, and in default of a cudgel, the devil gulp him, if I should not eat her up quick, as Candal the Lydian king did his wife, whom he ravined and devoured. Sir Martin Wagstaff. How many names has he got for that thing? He's gonna beat her with his pecker. You are very stout, says Pantagruel, and courageous. Hercules himself durst hardly adventure to scuffle with you in this your raging fury. Nor is it strange, for the Jan is worth 2, and 2 in fight against Hercules are 2 too strong. Am I a Jan? Quoth Panurge. No, answered Pantagruel. My mind was only running upon the lurch and trick-track. Thereafter did he hit, at the 3rd opening of the book, upon this verse. After the spoil and pillage, as in fire, he burnt with a strong feminine desire. Rawr. This portendeth, quoth Pantagruel, that she will steal your goods and rob you. Hence this, according to these 3 drawn lots, will be your future destiny. I clearly see it. You will be a cuckold, you will be beaten, and you will be robbed. Nay, it is quite otherwise, quoth Panurge, for it is certain that this verse presageth that she will love me with a perfect liking. Nor did the satyr-writing poet lie in proof hereof, when he affirmed that a woman, burning with extreme affection, takes sometimes pleasure to steal from her sweetheart. And what, I pray you? A glove, a point, or some such trifling toy of no importance, to make him keep a gentle kind of stirring in the research and quest thereof. In like manner, these small scolding debates and petty brambling contentions, which frequently we see spring up and for a certain space boil very hot betwixt a couple of high-spirited lovers, are nothing else but recreative diversions for their refreshment, spurs to, and incentives of a more fervent amity than ever. As, for example, we do sometimes see cutlers with hammers maul their finest whetstones, thereof to sharpen their iron tools the better. And therefore do I think that these 3 lots make much for my advantage, which, if not, I from their sentence totally appeal. There is no appellation, quoth Pantagruel, from the decrees of fate or destiny, of lot or chance, as is recorded by our ancient lawyers. Witness, Baldus lib cult blah blah blah. The reason hereof is, fortune doth not acknowledge a superior, to whom an appeal may be made from her or any of her substitutes. And in this case the pupil cannot be restored to his right in full, as openly by the said author as is alleged in L.A. Praetor Blood Domain. My Latin is impeccable. You cannot peck it. I think one should not argue against Pantagruel. That seems to be pretty much a guaranteed losing cause. But hopefully that these fortunes should give you some cheer. We'll see how it holds out, eh? Chapter 13. How Pantagruel adviseth Panurge to try the future good or bad luck of his marriage by dreams. Now, seeing we cannot agree together in the manner of expounding or interpreting the sense of the Virgilian lots, let us bend our course another way, and try a new sort of divination. Of what kind? Asked Panurge. Of a good ancient and authentic fashion, answered Pantagruel. It is by dreams. For in dreaming, such circumstances and conditions being thereto adhibited, as are clearly enough described by Hippocrates in Lib Peritonympion, by Plato, Platon, Iamblichus, Synesius, Aristotle, Xenophon, Galen, Plutarch, Artemidorus, Daldianus, Herophilus, Cucaliber, Theocritus, Pliny, Athenaeus, and others, the soul doth oftentimes foresee what is to come. How true this is, you may conceive by a very vulgar and familiar example, as when you see that at such a time as suckling babes, well nourished, fed and fostered with good milk, sleep soundly and profoundly, the nurses in the interim get leave to sport themselves, and are licentiated to recreate their fancies at what range to them shall seem most fitting and expedient, their presence, sedulity, and attendance on the cradle being, during all that space, held unnecessary. Even just so, when our body is at rest, that the concoction is everywhere accomplished, and that, till it awake, it lacks for nothing, our soul delighteth to disport itself, and is well pleased in that frolic to take a review of its native country, which is the heavens, where it receiveth a most notable participation of its first beginning with an imbuement from its divine source, and in contemplation of that infinite and intellectual sphere, whereof the centre is everything, and their circumference in no place of the universal world, to wit, God, according to the doctrine of Hermes Trismegistus, to whom no new thing happeneth, whom nothing that is past escapeth, and unto whom all things are alike present, remarketh not only what is preterite and gone in the inferior course and agitation of sublunary matters, but withal taketh notice what is to come. Then, bringing a relation of those future events unto the body of the outward senses and exterior organs, it is divulged abroad unto the hearing of others, whereupon the owner of that soul deserveth to be termed a vaticinator or prophet. Nevertheless, the truth is that the soul is seldom able to report those things in such sincerity as it hath seen them, whereupon the owner of that soul deserveth to then hang on, I'm losing my line. Whereas the owner of that soul deserveth to be termed a vaccinator or prophet. Nevertheless, the truth is that the soul is by reason. Okay, I got a lot. That the soul will seldom report those things in such sincerity as it hath seen them, by reason of the imperfection and frailty of the corporeal senses, which obstruct the effectuating of that office, even as the moon doth not communicate unto this earth of ours that light which she receiveth from the sun with so much splendor, heat, vigor, purity, and liveliness as it was given her. Hence it is requisite for the better reading, explaining, and unfolding of these somniatory vaticinations and predictions of that nature, that a dexterous, learned, skillful, wise, industrious, expert, rational, and peremptory expounder or interpreter be pitched upon. Such a one as by the Greeks is called onirocrit, or orniropolist. For these reasons, Heraclitus was wont to say that nothing is by dreams revealed to us, that nothing is by dreams concealed from us, and that only we thereby have a mystical signification and secret evidence of things to come, either for our own prosperous or unlucky fortune, or for the favorable and disastrous success of another. The sacred scriptures testify no less, and profane histories assure us of it, in both which are exposed to our view 1,000 several kinds of strange adventures, which have befallen Pat, according to the nature of the dream, and that as well to the party dreamer as to others, the Atlantic people, and those that inhabit the island of Thasos, one of the Cyclades, are of this grand commodity deprived, for in their countries none yet ever dreamed. Of this sort were Cleon of Dalia, Thrasymedes, and in our day the learned Frenchman Villovanus, neither of all which knew what dreaming was. Fail not, therefore, tomorrow, when the jolly and fair Aurora with her rosy fingers draweth aside the curtains of the night to drive away the sable shades of darkness, to bend your spirits wholly to the task of sleeping sound, and thereto apply yourself. In the meanwhile you must denude your mind of every human passion or affection, such as are love and hatred, fear and hope, for as of old the great vaticinator, most famous and renowned prophet Proteus, was not able in his disguise or transformation into fire, water, a tiger, a dragon, and other such like uncouth shapes and visors, to presage anything that was to come until he was restored to his own first natural and kindly form. Just so doth man, for at his this is tedious. For just so doth man, for at his reception of the art of divination, a faculty of prognosticating future things, that part in him which is the most divine, to wit, the nous, or mens, must be calm, peaceable, untroubled, quiet, still, hushed, and not embusied or distracted with foreign, soul-disturbing perturbations. I'm content, quoth Panurge. I'm not feeling that good. But I pray you, sir, must I this evening, ere I go to bed, eat much or little? I do not ask this without cause, for if I sup not well, large, round, and amply, my sleeping is not worth a forked turnip. All the night long I then but doze and rave, and in my slumbering fits talk idle nonsense, my thoughts being in a dull brown study, and as deep in their dumps as is my belly hollow. Not to sup, answered Pantagruel, were best for you, considering the state of your complexion and healthy constitution of your body. A certain very ancient prophet, named Amphiaraus, wished such as had a mind by dreams to be imbued with any oracle, for 24 hours to taste no victuals, and to abstain from wine 3 days together. Yet shall not you be put to such a sharp, hard, rigorous, and extreme sparing diet. I am truly right apt to believe that a man whose stomach is replete with various cheer, and in a manner surfeited with drinking, is hardly able to conceive aright of spiritual things. Yet am I not of the opinion of those who, after a long and pertinacious fastings, think by such means to enter more profoundly into the speculation of celestial mysteries. You may very well remember how my father Gargantua, whom here for honour's sake I name, hath often told us that the writings of abstinent, abstemious, and long-fasting hermits were every whit as saltless, dry, jejune, and insipid as were their bodies when they did compose them. It is a most difficult thing for the spirits to be in a good plight, serene and lively, when there is nothing in the body but a kind of voidness and inanity, seeing the philosophers with the physicians jointly affirm that the spirits which are styled animal spring form, and have their constant practice in and through the arterial blood, refined and purified to the life within the admirable net, which, wonderfully framed, lieth under the ventricles and tunnels of the brain. Excuse me. Oh. He gave us also the example of the philosopher who, when he thought most seriously to have withdrawn himself unto a solitary privacy, far from the rustling clutterments of the tumultuous and confused world, the better to improve his theory. To contrive, comment, and raticonate was notwithstanding his uttermost endeavors to free himself from all untoward noises, surrounded and environed about, so with the barking of curs, bawling of mastiffs, bleating of sheep, prating of parrots, tattling of jackdaws, grunting of swine, gurning of boars, yelping of foxes, mewing of cats, cheeping of mice, squeaking of weasels, croaking of frogs, crowing of cocks, cackling of hens, calling of partridges, chanting of swans, chattering of jays, peeping of chickens, singing of larks, creaking of geese, chirping of swallows, clucking of moorfowls, cucking of cuckoos, that one makes sense, bumbling of bees, ramage of hawks, chirming of linnets, croaking of ravens, screeching of owls, whicking of pigs, gushing of hogs, curring of pigeons, grumbling of cushat doves, howling of panthers, kirkling of quails, chirping of sparrows, crackling of crows, nuzzing of camels, weening of whelps, buzzing of dromedaries, mumbling of rabbits, cricking of ferrets, humming of wasps, meowling of tigers, bruzzing of bears, sussing of kittlings, clamoring of scarfs, whimpering of fulmarts, booing of buffaloes, warbling of nightingales, quavering of mavises, drintling of turkeys. I like that one. I really like that one. Coniating of storks, frantling of peacocks. I like that one too. Clattering of magpies, murmuring of stock doves, crowting of cormorants, sigling of locusts, charming of beagles, guaring of puppies, snarling of messens, rantling of rats, gurrietting of apes, snuttering of monkeys, pioling of pelicans, quacking of ducks, yelling of wolves, roaring of lions, neighing of horses, crying of elephants, hissing of serpents, and wailing of turtles. That he was much more troubled than if he had been in the middle of the crowd at the fair of Fontenay or Niort. Just so is it with those who are tormented with the grievous pangs of hunger. The stomach begins to gnaw and bark, as it were, the eyes to look dim, and the veins by greedily sucking some refection to themselves from the proper substance of all the members of a fleshy consistence, violently pull down and draw back that vagrant, roaming spirit, careless and neglecting of his nurse and natural host, which is the body, as when a hawk upon the fist, willing to take her flight by a soaring aloft in the open spacious air, is on a sudden drawn back by a leash tied to her feet. Everybody knows that kittens bumble. I agree. But and it's cats that nuzzle. Well, I guess they could just nuzz. Not camels. Camels don't nuzz. To this purpose also did he allege unto us that the authority of Homer, the father of all philosophy, who said that the Grecians did not put an end to their mournful mood for the death of Patroclus, the most intimate friend of Achilles, till hunger in a rage declared herself, and their bellies protested to furnish no more tears unto their grief. For from bodies emptied and macerated by long fasting, there could not be such supply of moisture and brackish drops as might be proper on that occasion. Mediocrity at all times is commendable, nor in this case are you to abandon it. You may take a little supper, but thereat must you not eat of a hare, nor of any other flesh. You are likewise to abstain from beans, from the preek, by some called the polyp, as also from coleworts, cabbage, and all other such like windy victuals, which may endanger the troubling of your brains, and the dimming or casting a kind of mist over your animal spirits. For as a looking-glass cannot exhibit the semblance or representation of the object set before it, and exposed to have its image to the life expressed, if that the polished sleekness thereof be darkened by gross breathings, dampish vapors, and a foggy, thick, infectious exhalations, even so the fancy cannot well receive the impression of the likeness of those things which divination doth afford by dreams. If any way the body be annoyed or troubled with the fumish steam of meat which it had taken in a while before, because betwixt these two there still hath been a mutual sympathy and fellow feeling of an indissolubly knit affection. You shall eat good Eusebian and bergamot pears, 1 apple of the short shank pippin kind, a parcel of the little plums of Tours, and some few cherries of the growth of my orchard. Nor shall you need to fear that thereupon will ensue doubtful dreams, fallacious, uncertain, and not to be trusted to, as by some peripatetic philosophers hath been related. For that, say they, men do more copiously in the season of harvest, feed on fruitages, or that be fruitage, than at any other time. The same is mystically taught us by the ancient prophets and poets, who allege that all vain and deceitful dreams lie hid and in covert under the leaves which are spread on the ground, by reason that the leaves fall from the trees in the autumnal quarter. For the natural fervor, which, abounding in ripe, fresh, recent fruits, cometh by the quickness of its ebullition to be with ease evaporated into the animal parts of the dreaming person. The experiment is obvious in most, is a pretty while before it be expired, dissolved, and evanished. As for your drink, you are to have it of the fair, pure water of my fountain. The condition, quoth Panurge, is very hard. Nevertheless, cost what price it will, or whatsoever come of it, I heartily condescend thereto, protesting that I shall tomorrow break my fast betimes after my somniatory exercitations. Furthermore, I recommend myself to Homer's 2 gates, to Morpheus, to Isolon, to Phantasus, and unto Phobetor. If they in this my great need succor me and grant me that assistance which is fitting, I will in honor of them all erect a jolly genteel altar composed of the softest down. If I were now in Laconia, in the temple of Juno, betwixt Oetile and Thalamus, she suddenly would disentangle my perplexity, resolve me of my doubts, and cheer me up with fair and jovial dreams in a deep sleep. Then did he say thus unto Pantagruel, Sir, were it not expedient for my purpose to put a branch or 2 of curious laurel betwixt the quilt and bolster of my bed, under the pillows on which my head must lean? There is no need of that at all, quoth Pantagruel, for besides that it is a thing very superstitious, the cheat thereof hath been at large discovered unto us in the writings of Serapion, Ascalonides, Antiphon, Philochorus, Artemon, and Fulgentius Planciades. I could say as much to you of the left shoulder of a crocodile, as also of a chameleon, without prejudice, be it spoken to the credit which is due to the opinion of old Democritus, and likewise of the stone of the Bactrians, called Eumetrides, and of the Ammonian horn, for so by the Ethiopians is termed a certain precious stone, colored like gold, and in the fashion, shape, form, proportion of a ram's horn, as the horn of Jupiter Ammon is reported to have seen, they over and above assuredly affirming that the dream of those who carry it about them are no less veritable and infallible than the truth of the divine oracles. Nor is this much unlike to what Homer and Virgil wrote of these 2 gates of sleep, to which you have been pleased to recommend the management of what you have in hand. The one is of ivory, which letteth in confused, doubtful, and uncertain dreams. For through ivory, how small and slender soever it be, we can see nothing. The density, opacity, and close compactedness of its material parts, hindering the penetration of the visual rays and the reception of the specieses of such things as are visible. The other is of horn, at which an entry is made to sure and certain dreams, even as through horn, by reason of the diaphanous splendor and bright transparency thereof, the species of all objects of the sight distinctly pass, and so without confusion appear, that they are clearly seen. Your meaning is, and you would thereby infer, quoth Friar John, that the dreams of all horned cuckolds, of of which number Penurge, by the help of God and his future wife, is without controversy to be one, are always true and infallible. I really need to take a break here. I need to stop doing this. I've got some work I need to finish, and I feel like I've been too well lubricated. So we're going to follow the dream next time. Yeah, it is sad, but stuff's got to get done. Maybe I will do some more in the near future to make up for it. I mean, after tomorrow, I'm free for a couple weeks. So, wow. For the nonce, I must bid you all adieu. I hope you have slept well, Montreth. Good night, everybody.